whispers of the human empire in the wide galaxy. Every species thought they knew humans. They were called peacekeepers, diplomats, traders, explorers. They spoke of treaties and fairness, of balance and respect. Other races laughed, saying humans were only good at talking, never at fighting. To them, humans were a soft race, slow to anger, quick to forgive. But far from the bright halls of the Galactic Council, strange whispers began to spread. Smugglers whispered first. They told of hidden stations in dark systems where no trade, routes existed, silent ships that carried no flags, no signals, only shadows moving between stars. Pirates spoke of human convoys that never lost cargo. Attacks failed again and again. Raiders vanished, their ships never found. At first it was dismissed as luck, but soon the stories grew. Survivors claimed they saw massive vessels in the dark, ships with armor blacker than space, watching from afar. Merchants laughed at these tales. Humans are traders like us, they said. They don't build such things. But others were not so sure. Some spoke of strange codes hidden in human transmissions, words that hinted at war. And slowly, fear spread, hidden under laughter. On Border Worlds, alien scouts reported unusual activity. Entire regions of space were marked as restricted by Earth. No one could enter, no one could scan. Drones that tried to approach were burned to ash by unseen weapons. When asked, humans only smiled politely and said, "That is a protected zone." The Council ignored it. Why worry about humans? They were always the quiet ones. But spies sent into human space came back with odd reports. They saw shipyards too large for trade. They saw soldiers training not for defense, but for invasion. They saw weapons that had no name in any alien language. Yet whenever the galaxy asked, humans gave the same answer: we are peacekeepers. The outsiders, the most aggressive empire in the galaxy, laughed the loudest. They mocked Earth in public halls, calling them cowards hiding behind words. Their fleets grew stronger, their armies marched further, and humans still said nothing. But silence has a weight, and soon everyone began to feel it. On distant moons, small colonies vanished, erased in minutes. Some believed the outsiders did it. Others whispered another name: humans. For those who studied carefully, the pattern was strange. No human world had ever been touched. No human convoy had ever fallen. No human soldier had ever been captured. It was as if someone had drawn invisible lines across the galaxy, lines that no enemy dared cross. A trader from the Veth species told a story in a crowded port. He said he once saw a human freighter attacked by 4 pirate ships. The freighter sent no call for help. It only sent silence. Minutes later, black warships appeared, faster than light itself. The pirates were destroyed before they could run. The freighter continued its journey without a scratch. No one came to help them, the trader whispered, because they didn't need help. Others added their own tales. A mining fleet swore that human ships passed by their station in complete silence, but their sensors showed numbers that made no sense. Ships as large as cities, covered in strange energy fields, vanishing before they could be scanned. At first, these were just rumors. But when rumor repeats long enough, it becomes fear. The galaxy started to ask, what are the humans really doing? In the great council chambers, alien leaders debated. Some said humans were harmless, always talking of peace. Others said the silence was dangerous. They feared what was hidden behind polite smiles, but no one could prove anything. Humans never showed their teeth, never raised their voice, never made the first move. And so the whispers grew louder. Children of distant species told each other scary stories at night. Don't cross the humans, they said, for they see everything. They hear everything and they wait. Still no war came. Years passed and humans kept building. They built fleets that no one was allowed to see. They built colonies closed to outsiders. They built armies that never marched, but never stopped training. It was not weakness. It was not fear. It was patience. And patience, in the hands of hunters, is more dangerous than any weapon. The day was coming when the galaxy would understand the truth. Humans were never peacekeepers. They were simply waiting. The outsiders' first move. The outsiders were not like other alien empires. They were brutal, loud, and hungry for conquest. Where others built councils and laws, the outsiders built fleets and armies. They lived for war, and they mocked any who did not fight as they did. To them, humans were the greatest joke in the galaxy. For years, they called Earth a planet of cowards. They laughed in the council chambers, pointing to humans as diplomatic servants who only carried messages and begged for treaties. The outsiders spread the word that humans were weak. They claimed that peacekeepers were nothing but prey, waiting to be devoured. So the outsiders decided to make their move. They began at the edges of the galaxy, far from Earth, far from the bright halls of politics. Border worlds belonging to smaller races fell first. Whole cities burned and millions were enslaved. The council gave speeches. Some races begged for protection. Others stayed silent, hoping the fire would not spread to them. The outsiders kept pushing forward. Every victory made them bolder. And every time the humans stayed quiet. They never sent fleets, never offered aid. They simply watched. To the galaxy, this silence looked like weakness. But silence has many meanings. The outsiders wanted to test the humans directly, so they sent raiding fleets near Earth's borders, close enough to provoke but not enough to spark a full war. They expected fear. They expected begging. They expected the humans to plead for help. But nothing happened. The fleets came back with strange reports. Human patrols vanished before they could be scanned. Convoys crossed dangerous routes unharmed. Colonies did not fall. The outsiders thought this was a trick. They believed humans were hiding behind allies, paying others for protection. They did not know the truth, that humans needed no help. Still, the outsiders pushed harder. They invaded a cluster of neutral systems close to human space. They burned the skies of one world and forced its survivors to speak their name in terror. Then they waited for a reaction from Earth. The Council turned to humanity for an answer. Alien leaders shouted in debate, demanding Earth take action. After all, humans always spoke of justice and fairness. But this time, humans only gave one reply: we will act in our own time. The Council laughed. The outsiders laughed louder, but some, deep inside, felt a chill. That answer did not sound like weakness. It sounded like patience. The outsiders decided they would strike a human colony directly. Only then, they thought, would the lie of peace be exposed. Only then would the humans run, cry, and beg. So they prepared a fleet of 30 warships, led by one of their greatest commanders, Lord Varzek. His name carried fear across the stars. He believed the destruction of a human colony would break Earth's mask and show the galaxy their cowardice. The fleet jumped into human space under dark skies. Sensors swept across empty stars. At first, the colony seemed defenseless. Its signal, weak, its surface calm. Lord Varzek smiled. This will be over in hours, he told his crew. The attack began. Bombardment cannons lit up the night. But something was wrong. The human colony did not scream, did not send out distress calls. They stayed silent. And in that silence, the outsiders felt something they had not expected: doubt. Then the stars changed. From behind the moon, black shapes moved. Not one ship, not two, but an entire formation. Silent. Waiting. And as the outsider fleet adjusted, more signals appeared. They were surrounded. Lord Varzek shouted for his gunners to fire. The sky burned with plasma, but the human ships moved in ways no one had seen before. They were fast, precise, and merciless. In the first minutes, 5 outsider warships were torn apart. The survivors panicked. They had expected easy prey, but they had found hunters. The battle ended in less than an hour. Only a handful of outsider ships limped back into dark space. Lord Varzek was not among them. News spread quickly, but strangely, the humans did not boast. They did not broadcast their victory. The story came only from the broken outsider ships that fled, their crews whispering in fear. They were waiting, One survivor gasped. They knew every move we would make. They knew where we would appear. We were not attacking them. We were walking into their trap. The council dismissed these words as excuses. The outsiders lost because of arrogance, they said. The humans were simply lucky. But in shadowed places, in secret bars and hidden ports, whispers returned. Traders asked, how could a peaceful colony defend itself against 30 warships? Smugglers muttered, why were the humans so silent until the very moment they struck? The answer was growing clear, though no one dared say it aloud. Humans were not peacekeepers. They were patient slayers. And the outsiders had made the first move. But they had no idea what move would come next. The calm before the storm. The galaxy held its breath after the first clash between humans and the outsiders. Rumors of black warships and silent hunters spread like wildfire. Some dismissed the stories, saying the outsiders had only been unlucky. Others whispered that something darker was unfolding. Yet in the halls of the Galactic Council, the humans still wore their same calm, polite smiles. To the outside world, it looked as if nothing had changed. Human diplomats still spoke of peace. Human traders still moved along safe routes. Human colonies still sent gifts and greetings to neighbors. But beneath that calm surface, something was stirring. Something vast and dangerous. Spies tried to look deeper into human space. What they found made no sense. Whole sectors had been closed, marked as restricted zones. Fleets patrolled without broadcasting signals, appearing and vanishing like ghosts. Communication was heavily encrypted. Even the bravest infiltrators returned, empty-handed, saying only one thing: the humans are hiding something too big to see. The outsiders, of course, refused to believe it. They had lost one fleet, but they were not finished. They told the galaxy that humans had cheated, that some hidden ally had fought beside them. Their leaders stood on grand stages and shouted, "Humans are liars. They cannot fight a true war." And still the humans said nothing. Silence can be more frightening than war. Months passed, and during those months the humans moved with a patience that confused everyone. They did not send armies. They did not make threats. They only watched. Outsider fleets that dared to test them again returned broken, or did not return at all. Each time the story was the same. The humans were waiting, and then they struck with perfect precision. But the humans themselves never spoke of these victories. They never bragged. They never showed the galaxy what weapons they had. They kept their secrets locked in shadow, letting only whispers carry their truth. Inside human war rooms, massive maps of the galaxy glowed. Commanders studied every route, every base, every habit of their enemies. They did not rush, they did not panic. They simply observed, like hunters crouching in tall grass, waiting for the right moment. One admiral was overheard saying, "A wolf does not bark before the kill." The council grew restless. Alien leaders demanded answers. "What are you planning?" they asked the humans. "Why do you not send fleets to defend your allies? Why do you remain so quiet while the outsiders burn the stars?" The human ambassador only smiled and gave the same reply. "We do not act until it is time. When it is time, you will know." That reply chilled more hearts than any open threat could. Meanwhile, the outsiders prepared for a greater war. They built larger fleets, filled their carriers with soldiers, and promised the galaxy that they would wipe humanity from the stars. They called humans the soft prey that pretends to be hunters. Their propaganda spread quickly. Many races believed them, thinking the humans were only buying time before they were destroyed. But others began to notice strange signs. A mining outpost on the edge of human space reported that it had been visited by human engineers. They paid well, they spoke kindly, but the miners noticed something odd. The humans were scanning starfields, studying asteroid patterns, as if preparing for something. A group of traders swore that when they passed through a human system, their sensors picked up strange distortions as if something massive was hiding behind the stars. But the distortions vanished before they could scan again. Even refugees fleeing the outsiders told of strange human aid ships. They looked like freighters, but when attacked, they revealed weapons powerful enough to tear apart entire war cruisers. The refugees were left alive, but the attackers were never seen again. The galaxy began to grow uneasy. Were the humans truly weak, or were they building something no one could imagine? The outsiders did not care. They declared war fully, promising to strike Earth itself. Their leaders believed humans would finally scream, beg, and break. They announced their plans openly, mocking humanity before the entire galaxy. And yet, the humans did nothing. They did not rally fleets. They did not give speeches. They did not threaten. They let the outsiders roar as loud as they wanted, while humanity remained silent. But silence is not always empty. Sometimes silence means a storm is coming. On Earth, the skies above military yards glowed with the fires of construction. Massive vessels were being built in orbit, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Engines capable of breaking through stars themselves hummed in secret hangars. Weapons too powerful to name were hidden beneath black armor. Soldiers trained in silence, their faces calm, their eyes sharp. No message of war was sent, no warning was given. The galaxy waited. The outsiders laughed, and the humans stayed patient. It was the calm before the storm, and those who listened closely could hear it. The quiet sound of blades being sharpened in the dark. The first strike. The galaxy had grown used to human silence. For years, they had watched humans endure insult after insult. The outsiders raided colonies, burned border systems, and shouted across council chambers that Earth was nothing but prey. And still, the humans did not respond. But silence is not the same as weakness. On a cold night under a quiet star, that truth was revealed. The outsiders had gathered a massive fleet. 200 warships bristling with weapons sailed toward a human trade route. They did not hide their intent. They announced it boldly, telling the galaxy that humanity would fall in a single strike. Their soldiers laughed, saying they would drink victory before the day was over. Scouts raced to watch the battle. Smugglers followed, hoping to loot whatever remained. Even council members waited in secret, eager to see the humans humbled. But what they saw was not weakness. The outsider fleet entered the system with fire and noise, their ships glowing with energy. They expected human freighters, helpless and slow. Instead, they found nothing. Empty space, silent planets, a system waiting in stillness. Confusion spread through the outsider ranks. Had the humans fled? Had they abandoned their colonies? For a moment, their commanders laughed. They called humans cowards once again. But then the stars themselves began to move. Dark shapes appeared, rising from behind moons, drifting from the shadows of asteroids, sliding out of hidden folds in space. At first, the outsiders thought these were stations or rocks. But then lights came alive, hundreds of them, bright, sharp, and cold. The human fleet had arrived. They did not announce themselves. They did not roar or boast. They emerged in silence, black armor reflecting the void, engines glowing faintly like the eyes of predators. At their center was something no one had ever seen, a vessel so massive it blocked starlight. A dreadnought, larger than cities, its surface covered in weapons that hummed like thunder trapped in metal. For the first time, the outsiders felt fear. Their commander barked orders. "Fire first, show them no mercy." Cannons roared. Missiles streaked across the void. Plasma lit the system like a new sun. But when the fire cleared, the human fleet was still there, untouched. Shields shimmered like glass walls, bending enemy fire away as if it were nothing more than rain. Then the humans struck. It was not chaos. It was not rage. It was precision. Every ship moved in perfect harmony, as if guided by a single hand. Beams of light cut through outsider cruisers with surgical accuracy. Missiles found their targets without fail, tearing engines apart, silencing weapons before they could reload. Within the first 10 minutes, 20 outsider ships were gone. Within 30 minutes, 60 more had vanished. Explosions lit the void, scattering wreckage like broken bones. The galaxy had never seen humans fight like this. They did not shout in fury. They did not chase glory. They struck with patience, with calculation, with cold, terrifying control. Every move had been planned, every weakness already known. The outsider commander screamed for retreat, but there was no retreat. The human fleet had closed every path, trapping them like prey in a cage. Then the dreadnought moved. Its weapons had not fired yet. The galaxy wondered why such a giant stayed silent. But when it did strike, the meaning became clear. A single cannon fired once, and an outsider battleship, miles long, armored with the strongest alloys, simply ceased to exist. No wreckage, no flame, only silence where it had been. Panic spread. Ships fled in every direction, but the humans had been waiting for that too. Smaller vessels darted like hunters, cutting down survivors one by one. The battle ended in less than 2 hours. Out of 200 outsider ships, fewer than 10 escaped, and even those survivors carried more than scars. They carried terror. One captain, broken and shaking, sent a message across the stars. They were not fighting us, they were teaching us. Every shot, every move. It was as if they had already fought this war 1,000 times in their minds. We were never their enemies, we were their prey. The galaxy heard these words, and fear spread faster than light. Yet once again the humans said nothing. They did not announce their victory. They did not demand surrender. They did not show their full fleet. They simply cleaned the battlefield, rescued their colonies, and vanished back into silence. To the outsiders, this was worse than defeat. If humans had celebrated, it would have shown pride. If they had boasted, it would have shown arrogance. But silence meant something else. It meant this was not the war. This was only the beginning. The galaxy understood that day. The humans had made their first strike, and they had done it not in anger, but in patience. The storm had started, and there would be no stopping it now. Fear spreads across the stars. The battle was over, but the echoes of it shook the galaxy. 200 outsider warships had entered human space, and almost all were destroyed. The few survivors that escaped carried more than broken hulls and scars. They carried fear. In smoky bars of distant trade ports, outsider captains whispered what they had seen. They spoke of a human dreadnought that erased ships with a single shot. They told of fleets moving like predators, silent and merciless. They swore that every maneuver, every retreat, every desperate strike had already been predicted by the humans. And they ended their stories with one chilling truth. The humans were not fighting in anger. They were fighting with patience. Soon, the whispers reached every corner of the galaxy. Refugees repeated them. Smugglers spread them. Even traders who never trusted rumors could not deny that something had shifted. The humans were no longer seen as peacekeepers. They were something else, something older, sharper, and infinitely more dangerous. The Galactic Council tried to calm the panic. Do not believe the stories, alien leaders said. The outsiders lost because of arrogance. Humans simply defended themselves, but their voices trembled. For behind their speeches, they too had heard the reports, and they too had felt the same cold fear. On farming worlds, children played a new game. They called it the Silent Hunters. One child pretended to be an outsider ship, loud and strong, while another child crouched in shadows, waiting. The game always ended the same way. The hunter never lost. Merchants began avoiding human routes. It was not because the humans attacked them, but because the silence of those routes was too heavy. Sensors showed strange distortions. Convoys passed through, and no pirates dared to follow. The space around Earth itself became a zone of dread. No one wished to see what might be hiding there. Meanwhile, the outsiders screamed louder than ever. They broadcast messages across the galaxy, claiming victory, even while hiding their losses. But their voices no longer sounded strong. Their words shook with desperation. They promised revenge. But even their own people whispered in secret. What if the humans are waiting for us to try again? Fear spread fastest among the smaller races. Species that had once mocked humans now begged for trade, for alliance, for protection. But the humans did not respond with open arms. They offered no promises, no threats. They simply continued their work in silence. That silence was the loudest message of all. Across the stars, governments tried to prepare. They built fleets, fortified borders, and studied human history. They searched for clues in old wars, old battles, old stories of Earth. They learned that humans had survived endless conflicts on their home world. They had fought wars of endurance, wars of patience, wars where they never struck first, but always struck last. The realization spread like poison. Humans do not rush. Humans wait. One council scholar explained it best. The outsiders fight for pride, he said. They strike quickly, loudly, and they fall when they meet resistance. But the humans fight differently. They do not fight to win a battle. They fight to end the war completely. That is why they waited. That is why they built fleets in silence. They are not peacekeepers. They are executioners. The galaxy began to tremble under this idea. In hidden chambers, the outsiders argued among themselves. Some demanded a full assault to crush humanity before they grew stronger. Others shouted that such an assault would be suicide. For the first time in their history, the warlike outsiders tasted doubt. And doubt is poison to conquerors. Still, humanity did not move. Their fleets remained hidden. Their soldiers stayed silent. They gave no warning, no demand, no ultimatum. They allowed fear itself to do their work. Every passing day, the galaxy's imagination made the humans more terrifying than they truly were. Or perhaps the galaxy was not exaggerating at all. A smuggler once said it best as he drank in a crowded port. When the outsiders strike, they roar like thunder, but thunder fades. When the humans strike, they whisper like a knife in the dark. And a knife never fades, it only waits for your throat. Those words traveled as fast as any official report. They became a saying, repeated from station to station, world to world. Soon even children spoke it in hushed voices. Beware the human whisper. But whispers alone could not stop the outsiders. Pride demanded they strike again. Pride demanded revenge. And so, as the galaxy held its breath, the outsiders prepared their largest fleet yet. They thought this new war would finally break humanity. But they did not understand the truth. Humanity was not hiding from the galaxy. Humanity was studying it. Every ship, every base, every commander, every weakness, mapped, memorized, marked for destruction. The galaxy did not yet know it, but the fear spreading across the stars was only the beginning. The storm had not yet reached its peak. The humans were waiting still. And when they struck again, no one would ever call them peacekeepers. The lesson in patience. The second great battle ended, and once again the galaxy was shaken. Entire outsider fleets had been shattered, their warlords killed, their carriers reduced to dust. For the first time in centuries, the outsiders suffered a defeat they could not explain away. Their propaganda machines screamed of lies and betrayal, but their own soldiers knew the truth. Some of those soldiers had been captured, the humans did not kill them. Instead, they were placed in sealed rooms, fed, given water, and left in silence. That silence worked on them like chains. These were warriors who had known only constant noise, battle drums, war chants, the endless roars of command. But in the quiet of human prisons, they felt the weight of something worse than weapons. Fear. When the interrogations began, the galaxy expected screams and resistance. The outsiders were proud, unbreakable, unwilling to give away secrets. But the humans did not use pain. They did not use threats. They only asked questions with calm voices, and the outsiders, to the shock of all, began to answer. One commander, scarred and broken, spoke first. His words spread quickly, recorded by hidden channels, and carried from system to system. They were waiting for us, he whispered. Every move we made, they knew. Every formation, every tactic. We thought we were leading the battle, but we were only walking into their plans. The humans studied us. They knew us better than we knew ourselves. Another captured officer gave even more detail. He admitted that during his raids into human space, His fleet always found colonies strangely empty of weakness. Defenses seemed light, but when they attacked, the response was perfect. It was as if, he said with trembling hands, they wanted us to attack those places. They set traps not with ships, but with patience. They waited until we believed we had won, and then they struck. We were never fighting freely. We were only moving where they pushed us. The galaxy froze at these confessions. A scholar from the Irnari species explained it in grim words. Humans fight wars the way spiders hunt prey. They spin webs of silence. They let their enemy walk forward thinking they are safe. Then, when the time is right, they close in. Patience is not their weakness. It is their weapon. Whispers became certainty. Everyone began to see patterns they had ignored before. Human colonies that were never touched, convoys that were never raided, fleets that never appeared until it was too late. All of it pointed to one conclusion. The humans had not been reacting. They had been waiting. Even the proud outsiders could no longer deny it. Their leaders roared for war, promising new victories, but soldiers in their ranks muttered quietly, "The humans already know our next move. We are walking into their jaws." Fear grew inside the outsider empire like rot. Meanwhile, the humans remained calm. They released no grand announcements. They issued no ultimatums. They let the captured commanders' words spread by themselves. Silence did their work better than any speech could. On neutral worlds, crowds gathered to listen to recordings of the captured outsiders. Some laughed nervously, calling the stories exaggerated. But when they looked into the eyes of those who had fought the humans and survived, there was no laughter left. Only terror. One prisoner's words struck the hardest. "You call them peacekeepers," he said bitterly. "But peacekeepers do not study war for decades. Peacekeepers do not build fleets in secret. Peacekeepers do not wait until every weakness is mapped before they strike. No, they are not peacekeepers. They are patient slayers, and we, fools that we are, woke them from their silence." The phrase spread instantly. Patient slayers. It became the new name whispered across the stars whenever humans were mentioned. In council halls, alien leaders argued endlessly. Some wanted to confront humanity directly, demanding they reveal their full strength. Others urged caution, terrified of provoking them further. But none could agree on one truth. What would humans do next? No one knew. And that ignorance was worse than any open war. On the ground, ordinary beings changed their behavior. Traders carried charms with human symbols, hoping to earn their protection. Pirates avoided even the shadow of human convoys. Children no longer played outsiders and hunters. They played humans and prey. And in those games, no one wanted to be the prey. The lesson had been delivered not by words, but by actions, by silence, by patience. The humans had taught the galaxy what it meant to wait, to watch, to strike only when victory was certain. It was a lesson that burned deeper than any weapon. The outsiders, once proud and untouchable, now faced a truth they could not escape. They had awakened something they could not control. And the humans, still silent, still patient, were not finished. The storm was still building. The day the galaxy bowed. The galaxy had seen wars before. Empires had risen and fallen, fleets had burned, and planets had turned to ash. But never had the stars themselves seemed so silent. After the confessions of the captured outsider commanders, no one doubted anymore. Humanity was not a race of peacekeepers. They were something far more dangerous. Still, the outsiders refused to yield. Pride was carved into their bones. They gathered their last strength, a massive fleet greater than anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Thousands of warships, endless carriers, whole armadas of soldiers and machines. They swore this would be the final war. They would crush Earth or they would die trying. The galaxy watched in fear. Some hoped the outsiders would win, if only to stop humanity from growing stronger. Others prayed humanity would prevail, because if the outsiders ruled, no one else would survive. Everyone knew this battle would decide the future of the stars. The outsider fleet roared across space, heading straight for the Sol system. Every sensor, every spy, every smuggler's eye was watching. And yet when they arrived, the humans were already waiting. Not with speeches, not with pleas, with silence. The black-armored fleets unfolded from the void like shadows peeling away from night. Dreadnoughts larger than cities drifted forward, their weapons glowing faintly. Beside them moved swarms of smaller vessels. Their formation so perfect it was like watching a single living creature. The outsiders fired first, as always. Thousands of cannons lit the darkness. Missiles streaked like fire across the system. But once again, the human shields held. Energy bent around them. Weapons vanished into nothing, and the humans advanced without hurry, without fear. Then came the counterstrike. The galaxy had heard of human precision before, but they had never seen it at this scale. Entire wings of outsider cruisers vanished in synchronized explosions. Carriers were destroyed before their fighters could even launch. Command ships tried to retreat, only to find their escape paths already blocked. The dreadnoughts unleashed their full power. Massive beams carved through space, erasing fleets in single strikes. Every blast was measured, deliberate, unstoppable. The battle was not chaos. It was not a clash of equals. It was an execution. Within hours, the largest fleet the outsiders had ever built was gone. Their empire collapsed with it. Worlds once proud of their warriors fell silent, their leaders bowing their heads in shame. Refugees poured into the stars carrying only one message: the humans are the patient slayers, and their patience is over. The galaxy trembled. Some waited for the humans to announce conquest. They expected Earth to claim worlds, demand tribute, enslave races as others had done in history. But humanity did not. Instead, they simply cleaned the battlefield and left. The silence that followed was heavier than war. Other empires tried to guess what the humans would do. Would they expand? Would they strike again? But humanity gave no answer. They had nothing to prove. And that was the most terrifying truth of all. The council finally gathered, shaken and desperate. For the first time, the great leaders of the galaxy bowed their heads as the human ambassador entered the chamber. No one mocked them now. No one called them weak. The entire galaxy had seen the storm unleashed, and no one wanted to stand against it again. The ambassador said few words. His voice was calm, steady, without pride. We do not seek endless war. But know this: when we are pushed, we do not forget. We do not forgive. And when we strike to end. If you want peace, hold it. If you want war, remember this day. There was no debate, no questions. The galaxy bowed. From that day, humans were never again called peacekeepers. They were not diplomats, not traders, not explorers. They were hunters who had waited in silence until the moment was right. And when that moment came, they taught the galaxy the price of arrogance. On quiet worlds, children no longer whispered scary stories about humans. They spoke of them with respect, even awe. Songs were written of the black fleets, poems of the dreadnought beams, stories of the patience that ended an empire. The outsiders, once feared above all, became a warning tale. The lesson was carved into every mind: never mistake patience for weakness. For patience in the hands of humanity was sharper than any blade. And so the day entered history, the day when the galaxy bowed its head and finally understood the truth. Humans had never been peacekeepers. They had always been patient slayers.